and get going.
Okay.
Okay, great. We will get started. So thanks everyone for being here. My name is Jeff Bryan. I'm the executive director and co-founder of the Positivity Project. And I'm really excited for Frank to share some of his knowledge today about Positivity Project and in the EdTech space that we're in right now. We know that distance learning is tough in all aspects, and we know that a lot of new things are getting put on teachers and on parents and on students, and that's really disrupted the way that you guys have traditionally taught and the way that students best learn. So Frank is our EdTech coordinator. He's also an 8th grade English teacher at Niskayuna Middle School. And Frank is going to talk today about how schools are implementing the Positivity Project at a distance. And then after that, he's also going to open it up for any questions that you have. And we'd love to hear ways that you are teaching the Positivity Project to your students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I mean, it's awesome to have the opportunity to talk a little bit, to kind of walk you through some of the stuff that we've built and kind of the rationale behind what we've built. But it's even more awesome because it's such a team thing. So I'm looking at this screen and, you know, there's so many, like 2 or 3 people here that I'm just the front face of a team of people that hopefully are giving you all access in as many ways as we possibly can. You know, so I mean, Denise is on this call and she's everybody's first line of communication, and she's doing an incredible job, and Tiffany and Jeff and you know, it's been awesome to kind of watch this, you know, this kind of grow. So what I'm going to do right now is I just jumped out of a classroom session, so I'm going to pretend I'm still there. I'm going to do about 5 or 10 minutes on just an overview of what our resources look like and what our sharing settings look like, and so that you can get a sense of kind of the why and the how of how we're rolling things out, and then talk to you a little bit about specifically how we feel like we're helping, and then hopefully get some feedback from you and some thoughts as to how we can help you better and how we can make sure that things, go as smoothly as we possibly can for you. So I'm going to do my Tiffany, I think do I have the ability to share screen?
Yeah, right in the bottom.
Yeah, it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Here we go.
There we go. Okay, let's try it again. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to minimize that so that I don't see you all. All right, and you should be seeing right now. You should be seeing my my slide deck here, and I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to leave it in this mode just so that I can navigate quickly. Usually, the biggest questions that we always get, and the kind of the overarching structure of how we built things is that we've now built this resource using Google Apps in Education and Google Drive and Slides because we came to the understanding super early that so many people, so many schools, so many teachers are already using Apps in Ed in their classrooms. And our thought was, instead of it being one other thing or one more thing or forcing facilitation of something that you have to download, we would just provide that kind of resource. Okay, so what you're seeing over here in this image is a list of all of our character strengths in grade 2, and we have several folders that house all of those documents. Okay, and from there, right, what we do is we house all of these folders in one giant folder, all right, or one of those presentations in one giant folder, and we build an individual Google group with all school accounts. Okay, and so our P2 2020-2021 group, right, this is the group that we add to the share settings on. We add this to the share settings of that big folder. And then what that does is that allows all of these subgroups, which are all of your school lists, all right, to have access to this one main group accessing this foldering system. Okay, and the reason that we do that is because really twofold. Number one is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that your group has access to the right materials, and that it also makes it super easy for us to add members to your group without having to go and add 20 or 30,000 people to a single slideshow. All right, so we're able to do it in that way. But what that also does is it provides us with the ability to kind of move things around, especially at times when all of a sudden the entirety of the continental U.S. moves out of a classroom and onto the couch. So when we moved away from the buildings, we did not have a lot of trouble, right, kind of facilitating that kind of shift because of this overarching system that we had already built. Okay, and so in that, what we have is we have 4 or 5 different ways that we're able to grant access to schools and to teachers, to not only to schools and teachers, but to families, to parents, and in certain circumstances directly to students, if that's the case and if that's what your school needs. All right, but the thing that I always go back to, and I do this every single week with my 8th graders, all right, is I always go back to the character cards. And I do it for a lot of different reasons. The first reason, and probably the most important reason, is that I view the character cards as the source material for everything that goes on for P2. All right, so when we go and we look at these character cards, each of these character cards, I try every opportunity I can to put my students into a direct connection with as much source material as possible. So we're talking about curiosity. This week we're talking about leadership. When we're talking, I mean, for me, it was perfect the week that we left the building. I mean, not leaving the building is absolutely not perfect, but the week that we left the building, the character strength of the week was love of learning. So I did the entire week talking about this character card and identifying for students that, listen, in order for you to really grow at a time like this, you really have to love learning. You have to be willing to do things that are not easy to do, because the distraction of PlayStation or outside is huge, and we want them to do a lot of different things, but we definitely want them to kind of value some of those pieces. So what I do always, all right, is I go and I try to get my students and my middle school students to look at that source material. Now, that might not be as easy and maybe not even possible for students at the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. But what I also have done, because I am the parent of a 2nd and 4th grader, and I am the husband of a 1st grade teacher, okay, is I've used these things at home. All right, and please don't judge the paint job on that wall. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at all the paint markings there. But what we do is we post. I print and I put that character strength of the week right up on that character card right up on our wall every week. And I've done that, in the 6 or 7 or 8 weeks that we've been out. And even though my 2nd grader is still learning to read, my 4th grader is reading to learn, but my 2nd grader is still learning to read. He'll go over there and he'll take a look at it and he'll try to sound out a word. And every time he tries to sound out a word, it's another great opportunity for me to say to him, hey, how did you demonstrate that you can, how did you demonstrate leadership? And he'll say, I don't know, I'm just sitting here with Maddie. Well, did you show her how to do something? Or when when they struggle with something, well, I'll find one of those quotes and I'll read them one of those quotes. So what I've come to, at least in my own practice, is using those character cards, at least initially, right? And what I'm broadcasting on the screen right now, this is how I roll out character cards to my 8th graders. I ask them to either print and annotate. When we were in the building, that was easy. Less so now, but or read and annotate and do a little bit of writing around some of those character strengths. And kids do, some kids do awesome work and some kids do just okay work. And That's great, because at the end of the day, they're interacting with that content, which is, to me, the most important thing. Okay. And the nice thing about the character cards is that all those documents are completely open. You know, that material is available to anybody on the internet. You know, so when you go to our resources database, and just by searching resource type character card, that'll pull up all of those character cards. And the best document, I mean, if I were voting on most relevant documents, the most relevant document for me on that whole database is the last link on the character card, because that's all of the character cards combined. And so, you know, you can look at, or you can, I mean, I probably now at home wouldn't print it, but you could print that entire set, right? And then it becomes, you know, this set of materials that I can either distribute to kids, or, you know, now my own kids. But
sorry, I would just add one more thing, that's a great tool to send home to parents. You know, we've said that in some emails and blog posts, but that's just a really good tool to send home for parents, because it's that one-page overview of the character strength. So just want to add that in as well.
Yeah, and what I'm finding in my own classroom practice, what I'm hearing from you know, colleagues that I'm teaching with, either in this unit or all over the place, what I'm seeing from, you know, the decisions that my wife is making in regards to rolling out content to first graders, and we're seeing it, you know, Denise and I, you know, and we all have talked a bunch about it. What we're seeing is a lot of stuff goes out on Monday, you know, Sunday night and Monday. And so, you know, the nice thing about the character cards is that you can connect those to anything. You know, you can put it in a Bloom's app, you can put it in in Seesaw, you can attach it to Remind, you can post it in Google Classroom, you can put it in an email, you can do all of those things right with those character cards, because they're completely available online. Okay, so that's that first iteration of what's going on. The second thing that and really the character cards are the most open. Like it's completely available and you can do anything you want. All right, but the second thing that we're doing, and I think that it has helped us a lot, is we're opening up the current week's resources available. So on a Wednesday, and those are going through pre-week Wednesday right through end of week Sunday. So it's about a 10-day span. So we're opening up on a Wednesday evening, and sometimes when I'm, you know, not as on top of it as I need to be, a Thursday morning, those character cards are being opened up. Sorry, those slide presentations are opened, so that anybody that is accessing them has full access to those documents. And what that means is that teachers who are posting slide presentations to any one of those learning management systems, it can be Moodle, it can be Schoology, it can be Edmodo, it can be Classroom, any of those apps that are super prevalent among elementary school teachers, anybody posting those links, parents and students, anybody will have access to them. So it's not on a closed off system of just our partners and our accounts. Okay. And so that's a huge, we've seen a lot of benefit to that, in the sense that we're not getting access requests from groups that are sending emails where teachers have access, but we have not given parents or students access because they haven't gone through that process yet. All right. So this is really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make this as available to your parent group and your student group as we possibly can. So we're going on Wednesday evening, we're opening those resources, and then on the following Sunday evening, I'm going back through and we're making them private to groups, to partners only. And what that should do is that should eliminate the need for students to have actual physical access to the documents. Okay. The only thing that I'm seeing that is a kind of a hitch to that is that sometimes when students don't finish, like if you assign something and you're collecting it back, if they don't finish it by the end of the weekend, that they may not have that resource. We haven't seen a lot of that, but if that's something that you're noticing, we would be really interested to hear that, because that means that we would try to tailor something to kind of fit that need. So that's our second.
Frank, I would just add one thing to that.
Yeah.
That top bullet right there, the calendar extended through the end of June. Lisa, I know you had a question about that. If we were going to extend it past next week with the Other People Matter Mindset outro week, and we are. So through the end of June, the calendar is extended. So all of those resources, and Frank, yeah, if you click on the list view calendar, then we can pop it up. But you'll see that we've extended it 6 weeks. So all of those resources will be extended for an extra 6 weeks, just the way that Frank laid out before, because we know that everything's different right now, and typically it would end at the end of May, and now it's going to end at the end of June.
And I also updated the narrative here, so now it's got, you know, this is the list with all of that information. So you'll see that on the resources database, all right, and then on the bottom of the doc here, we've got this extended 6 weeks. Okay, so really, between the character cards and that the opening of resources, we feel like we're managing what is an enormous group of traffic that's getting pushed home, right? Which is great. But we also have other alternatives in the sense that if there's a need for a long-standing access to any information, we can set up parent email and student drive account information. We can set up individual parent email addresses. And really what we're doing is we're working with individual schools to figure out what the best method is for them. Our initial thought was to provide parents with access, and then what we heard is that there are some schools, especially upper elementary, middle, and high schools, where they wanted to send us student Google Drive accounts, and we're able to put those in a subgroup, a COVID subgroup, so that students do have access right through Google Drive. And what that means is they would have access to the full set of resources for a long-standing period of time. So with that, that could be groups that are trying to roll out some sort of culminating project at the end of a year, where they're talking about either a large number of character strengths or very specific ones for individual students. And if that's the case, we're absolutely able to facilitate that process of either adding parent email addresses so that they have access, as well as student drive accounts, in the event that that's something that people are interested in doing. All right, and then we have a very small, in very small circumstances, we're able to add individual parents in spaces where we're asking parents to kind of opt into, just to acknowledge that we're giving them access to the full length of our resources. So really, that covers the extent of how we're trying to provide access, and really what we're doing in regards to making sure that everybody can access both our character cards and our slide presentations. But what we saw in your survey answers, and what we saw and what we're seeing in email and in all our correspondence from you all right, is that best practice is really in a distance manner is really kind of breaking down into those three categories, which are overall people that are screencasting and then publishing video, people that are live broadcasting on tools like Zoom, like Google Hangouts, like Classroom Live, or we've heard a lot of different live broadcast tools, and in learning management systems, most prevalently clearly is Google Classroom, and even beyond that, is things like Edmodo or Schoology, and so really what we've done is I've kind of built out solutions for what we feel like each of those real issues are. So if you're doing a screencast or a live broadcast, really access isn't an issue, because you should be able to present our information directly from your screen and record or broadcast live. And we're hoping that you're finding that's effective and functional for you. But then the learning management piece, all right, especially in regards to classroom, all right, and I'm going to jump over here to my own test classroom. There is one little kind of technical thing that we're asking that people that you would need to adapt to, and the only problem with that is the only problem with doing that is if I were to create a new post or a new assignment, instead of adding the slide or adding from Google Drive, if I click on this, I'm going to be able to add this character slide. But because we have those resources, the resources are domain specific to @posproject.org, all right, the only thing that you would need to do in order to post is just post the link in this instructional options. So I'm just going to use this link here. So this is the P2 slide presentation. Leadership. Okay, and that would be the most effective way to make sure that this information gets across to students. When you add this, even if you are shared into the document and you have it in your shared with me section of your Google Drive, because those documents are ownership specific to @Pause Project, and because of the share settings that need to happen with Google Classroom, and I can, anybody that has a follow-up, I can definitely touch base as to why that is. But because of those things, it will not allow you to connect to attach this directly to through this functionality in Google Classroom. So those are really the most. There we go. Give it back to me. Those are really the things that we're seeing in regards to what your needs are as teachers, as administrators on the ground, trying to get this information to students, and our kind of functional rollout of how to adapt to those things. But we would be super interested to hear how things are going with you, and what types of things have been super successful, and get some feedback to you as to some things that maybe your schools or your parents are struggling with, so that we can troubleshoot some of those answers.
I just want to say, because Jeff, you referenced before, I really appreciate you extending the calendar by 5 weeks, because we have about 5 weeks left. I went in there a few days ago and I didn't see it, although I had heard you said you were extending it, but I couldn't find it. And then when I went in this morning, I'm like, there it is. So either I missed it before or you put it in recently, but thank you very much. So I really appreciate that. Just a quick story too. Monday morning, I just loved this, that I made a mistake last week. And instead, I linked second grade slides to first grade or something like that. And then I had a Zoom meeting, so I wasn't checking email. And by 10 o'clock, the number of emails that I had from teachers saying that I linked the wrong links and that they're getting emails and questions from students, I was like, oh my, it was awesome to hear that on a Monday morning, people were going to P2 first. So I just wanted to share that. We appreciate all that you're doing.
That's awesome, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that with us.
That is awesome. And that's actually great perspective for us, because Tiffany, Jeff, Denise, and I, sometimes at the end of a day on Monday, we're scratching our head and saying, oh my word, I can't believe how much how much is coming in. That's a really good perspective for us to kind of frame that. It's the first thing people are looking for on a Monday. And we love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, so I was wondering, the character cards, I had not really used them as much, so I appreciate, Frank, you sharing how you use those. I'm wondering if they are available translated, particularly into Spanish, but I know Fairfax County, we have a lot of languages.
We are working on that. We're actually working with a partner school in Hoboken, New Jersey, Ola Hoboken, and they are working on translating not only all the character cards, but all of our slide presentations.
Oh,
so
fabulous.
Year, we should have all of our slide presentations in Spanish. The videos will still be in English, because we have over 1,000 videos, and that takes a ton of time to find all those videos that are clean and short, and all that stuff. But the slides themselves, we will have in Spanish for next year.
That is fabulous, because it looks like we're probably going to be doing this distance learning thing in some capacity next year too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
all your work.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
And those, I mean, the more the, you know, even, I think even at the beginning of this whole, I don't even know what to call it. I'm calling it Endless Sunday. You know, at the beginning of this whole thing, when I've always used the character cards. Like we've been doing this for, you know, a bunch of years now. And every time we sit down and we talk, I just keep going back to, I love that material, because it's one page, it's an overview, and it really, like, I'm a language teacher. I teach 8th grade ELA, you know, so for it to be a short, dense text that now kids can kind of pull apart is awesome. And so that, I think that kind of it provides a great opportunity for kids, especially middle and high school. I was worried about kind of coming home and what that was going to look like. And right up until I sat down with my 4th and my 2nd grader, and I came to realize that they, you know, it's not so over their head where it's a not useful document. Now, it's clearly, it's dense and it's bulky and there's a lot in there, but you know, I almost see that as a positive, because now I have to have that conversation. The conversation has to go on between, you know, me and my 4th grader when she can't get something to work that was functioning, and I have to decide, am I going to help her with it, or am I going to just point over my right shoulder and say, hey, take a look at that card. Let's talk about this for a minute. And so, you know, it's almost become more valuable to me over the last 7 or 8 weeks as it even was prior to coming home.
Yeah, and I would just give as context for those character cards, what we did, we took the 800-page book, Character Strengths and Virtues, written by Chris Peterson and Martin Seligman, and each chapter has a different character strength, and it's like very dense, academic, like very, very academic, and so we consolidated that into a one-page overview that's just easy to understand, where we broke it up. So it is, you know, straight from the source material, Character Strengths and Virtues.
I love those character cards because I use those to do my morning announcements every day. I just pull them up. I pull out another quote off of there, or, you know, just one part of it. So I love those. Thanks.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. So what are you guys struggling with? Like we've made, you know, the things public as much as we can for those 10 days. And I think Frank explained Google Classroom, but is there anyone out there struggling with something certain from a tech perspective that you want to talk through, or get opinions of anyone else on the call?
That one thing Frank mentioned on Google Classroom was key. We discovered that like 3 or 4 weeks ago, that you couldn't add a link. You had to add the link in the description of the assignment. So we had somebody in our district do a little screencastify to show everybody how to do that, because not everybody that's teaching now remotely is familiar with Google Classroom that they got thrown into. So everybody needs to see exactly how to do everything. So when we figured that out, that was key.
And we think that I think that there's a long-term solution to functionally getting that to work within that Google Classroom ecosystem a little bit better. But I think that especially if or when we kind of get back to back to school, and we kind of see what's going to happen district by district. I think there's a way to make it more functionally useful within Google Classroom. And we're working, you know, I'm thinking about that, a lot about that, and I'm kind of working our way through that. I'm hoping that that's going to be even easier to do by the time we come back.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, what does it look like? Like you talked about Monday mornings. Is it teachers live, like teaching this live, or are parents doing a lot of the work with Positivity Project resources? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, it looks very different in every classroom. You know, some kindergarten teachers have a Zoom meeting with their class every single day at 9 o'clock, and that's what they start with, the P2. Others don't even talk, the others will say, don't forget to look at P2 today, that, this week we're working on whatever. But, so it's very different in every single classroom.
Okay. That's good to know. That's kind of what we figured. And that's why we try to make things as open as possible, knowing that everything's going to be different. But that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would just add to the Google Classroom, how you described doing the link. I've been doing that for our kindergarten teachers each week. And then in addition, I attach the character card. So that way it's there for the students. And we've always pushed out the character cards. And then our principal uses that as well for that definition and for the theme for the week. So I mean, at the beginning of the school year, I push out all the character cards because you send them in the group of 24 to the teachers with the calendar. And that way they have the verbiage. And then additionally, I send it out each week with via email. But now that we're distance learning, we're putting them into the Google Classroom. But that has always been the thing, kind of the core of what we go to as well. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. And Frank, a big shout out to you. You helped me earlier back. Yeah, so thanks so much.
No worries. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions that anyone has or wants to share?
I have one question. I don't know why I'm showing up under my daughter's name, Sasha, but I'm Rohini Tohan. I'm from Luther Jackson Middle School in Fairfax County. And my question is, just with keeping in mind that some of our students don't have access to the technology piece, have you considered anything around some type of a mailing or a packet in lieu of, the resources that you have available on your site? I'm just trying to think of some of our students and families who might benefit from these lessons and character cards. They might do better with a packet or a mailing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think immediately, if the school wanted to print off the character cards and mail those, I think that would be a good place to start, and you can definitely do that. I think the tough part with the slides is that videos are generally the first 2 or 3 days. So there is that technology piece to it. And that's because we're intending these lessons to be so short, so to make it short, a video often helps tell the story, and then you can have a conversation. But maybe some of the activities as well in those slide presentations, you could send that home in a packet. We hadn't really thought about that too much, but that's definitely something that we will consider further. But I think immediately, those character cards could be a great item to send home.
Yeah, no, that's a good starting point, and our team can kind of look into doing that. But it's good to know that you would be open to also exploring something should this situation continue into the fall of a new school year and we renew our subscription. It will be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And for next year too, we are building out P2 for families. So that's going to go through schools to families. And we're figuring out now exactly what that's going to look like. It's probably going to be a one-page overview. And we're also going to provide language for what you can send home to parents. That's part of your traditional communications, like if there's a weekly email or whatever. We know it's different for every school. So again, we're trying to make something as simple as possible for all of our 500 plus schools to use. But we can think about offline tools as well, like conversation starters, maybe small activities.
Or like a reflection journal that can be connected to English language arts or something that they could keep.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. And we do have journals. We have reflection journals on the resource page.
I saw those. Yeah.
Okay, just as a thought for something else, but yeah, I think reflection journals that tie into ELA would be a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
you. And those character cards are PDF files. So you should, in the event that you wanted to do that today, you should be able to, download and print those things right off of our site.
Yeah, we'll get right on it. Thank you.
I just wanted to throw in that when I was principal, I'm the New York State Positivity Project leader, but I just retired from the West Hill School District near Syracuse, New York. And we used to, this was before the virtual days, but we used to send home the character cards with the kids every single Monday. And that way the parents would have them to use with the kids during the week. And in the beginning of the year, we had a little card that went home, and it gave instructions for what the parents, it was kind of like P2 homework, what they should do with the character card on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There was a little, just a brief sentence, and it didn't matter which character card, which strength, it was, the directions were generic to go with each one. So like in the beginning of the week, it was talk about the definition. At the end of the week, it was more application, like name a time during this week that you use that character strength or saw somebody else use it or whatever. So it kind of scaffolded throughout the week, but they were asked to kind of keep that. It was on cardstock, keep it on your fridge. And then when the character card comes home every Monday, that's what the parents can do with it at home. So just to throw that in as an idea.
And I think just as a an addendum to that, while the equity and the technology is absolutely at the forefront of everybody in education's perception right now, perspective right now, so often that those challenges are technical based in regards to what students can physically do work on over long periods of time. But sometimes that is only the case with like the larger pieces of technology, like a tablet or a computer. One of the other things that's available that I think is awesome that other members of our team do an awesome job at is there really is a good solid amount of content being pushed out through our social media, and so there are people that are just seeing P2 on Twitter and if something comes through on the day, that can be a great conversation piece between a parent and a child, or something and it doesn't necessarily, those P2 especially on Twitter, and Jeff, you can weigh in about Facebook and the Instagram. There's a lot of really great content that's not just teachers talking to teachers. It's just, if you need to hear good news, that's a good place to go. So, in the short term, some people they do not have multiple devices at home, but but a lot of people do have cell phones, and, to be able to interact with that, might be an okay segue.
Yeah. I think our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram have some really good stuff, and also our blog page on the website that essentially there's character card overviews with a video embedded in there. So it's essentially the same content as the character card with a video that gives an example of someone who exemplifies that character strength. And that's on our blog. So if you go to posproject.org/blog, you'll see those. And that's just another great place to go to start those conversations. And Sean, I think you had a question.
Yeah, yep. Kind of going off the parent thing there, Frank had brought it up in his slideshow. If we do have parents that are interested in getting a hold of like those resources at this time right now, how do you want us to go about that? Is that something we gather like with our building and group them together, or can we deal with the parents individually, or?
It's whatever works best for you.
Yeah.
So if you want to group it all together and give us like one bulk upload, you can do that. Or if you want the parents to sign up on their own, we can send you that link. Just reach out to Frank and he'll send you that link, and you can email that out to all the parents, and it just gives instructions on how to access everything to them.
And Sean, there's a right when you go to the P2 site, there's a COVID pop-up. And there's a piece right to that you fill out, and then it'll automatically kick you back a whole set of different options. So Jeff's right. It works individual classroom by classroom, but it also could work, full building or district wide.
Okay, cool. So if I kind of just push that info out via like we use Seesaw, right? If I just kind of send that information via Seesaw, they can just kind of take the ball in their own hands there and kind of get themselves situated then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just kind of why I got one more too, maybe just kind of to pull to everyone. So I'm not a classroom teacher. I'm actually phys ed. So kind of just to get that out there, I'm the P2 leader in our building, but just for me being from the phys ed area as well, it's much harder for me to kind of grasp how our building as a whole kind of is keeping up with P2 per se. You know, like there's definitely individual teachers who of course I know are, you know, pushing it out every day, but it's much tougher for me per se to kind of get a building vibe or feel per se on if everyone's getting it, or, you know, I'm kind of feeling like, hey, you know, what if there's kids that are just not getting this at all, you know, with just kind of being difficult not seeing them in the building. I guess my question is there anything that anyone else is doing as kind of a school or building initiative where things are coming down from per se not individual teachers, but maybe like under a building direction? Like we all use Seesaw. Every teacher has a Seesaw account, so we have that constant platform in our building, but it just worries me a little bit that we're not as balanced as we would normally be. Like some kids are getting, you know, a ton, but some kids I feel like are just getting not what they should be. And is there anything anyone else is doing maybe that's kind of covering that broader umbrella?
I can just say we have one principal that's doing the slides for the week every single day on the morning announcements, which are broadcast through the Facebook site for the building. So that is one way to kind of give everybody the consistent instruction building wide.
Yeah, and I actually saw that at a Michigan elementary school. Adam Weldon does that as well. Sean, as the building principal, he does his daily announcements and he talks about the character strength of the week.
So at our school, we're kind of doing the same thing. Our principal does a morning announcement on Facebook and a closing announcements, and he incorporates the Positivity Project into that. But we are also sending a weekly email to the families in the school, and we attach the character card to that. So it's coming from the teachers specifically, but it also comes directly from administration to the parents with a little blog that I do and attach it to that so that parents don't have to filter through each classroom to find it. They could just go right to their weekly email they know that the office is going to push out that character slide every week.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Great ideas.
All right, guys.
So,
anything else, Frank?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, we're trying really hard to build in a level of versatility that kind of blankets a big group, but that doesn't mean that if you've got a single situation that we need to try to target, that you shouldn't reach out. We would love to, I would love to hop on and talk to you about how things are going and and connect about anything that we can do to tailor an experience to your building. So if as you struggle, don't hesitate to let us know. We really do want to do everything we can to make sure all this stuff is getting to where it needs to go. And it's maybe the most important thing. As we spend more and more time, as I spend more and more time out of my classroom, and I spend more and more time with my two kids, it's hard to say that all of these things that I hope that they're going to be in a decade, are not super important. And I feel like it ranks right up there with the reading and the writing and the math and the phys ed and the physicality and the every part of it. It's just so important. So if there's anything we can do to help make this easier for you, please reach out.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thanks, guys, for all you're doing, and thanks for being here today. Tiffany's going to send this out to everyone, so you'll have a copy of this if you want to skip forward or see anything that Frank did. But thank you again for being here, and thanks for all you're doing.